Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Disquiet, and this is a new thriller from writer-director Michael Winnick, and focuses on a man named Sam. After a near-fatal car accident, he wakes up in an abandoned hospital where there's like no doors and windows, trapped inside with other victims of other kinds of violent acts, as they try to escape some sinister, mysterious entities that are trying to stop them at every turn. And this film, I feel like, it's weird, to start at the end, I feel like the first 2/3 of this film build up to what turns out to feel more like a Stephen King-esque film that at the heart of it is about humanity and coming to grips with fate and grief and these kinds of things, these very human elements. And there's a bit of like emotion, there's a bit of humanity there, and the concept, I feel like, becomes the most interesting in its final moments. And it's just like, wow, I wish all the build up to this was that interesting. And that's the challenge of this film. This film's only like an hour and 25 minutes, but it takes so much build up to get to the point where I feel like it's really clicking. And at the heart of it, I think Jonathan Rhys-Meyers does a fine job here. I feel like most of the cast here is a bunch of young, very attractive people that do all right. There's a couple of like character actors like Lachlan Monroe, and you have Gary Chalk, who plays Virgil, who's this mysterious character in a wheelchair that winds up being able to really anchor a lot of what's really going on towards the end of the film, with lovely exposition dumps, very, very subtly brought about. But most of this film, you're relying on a bunch of actors that, honestly, you're probably there for mostly of their looks, to look attractive while they're almost being demolished and torn apart by these crazy entities. Like, there's this crazy comatose man who just like snaps into action and is just trying to straight murder everybody. There's other kinds of entities in this abandoned hospital, and like the acting isn't the strongest throughout most of this film. And I think the filmmaking from Winnick is very aggressive and over the top and takes you out of the film. There's unfortunate sound mixing and sound editing in this film, and like the choices of like camera work and this really obnoxious metal score that doesn't really have any finesse to it and just sounds very generic, makes 2/3 of this movie feel so schlocky and just uninteresting to look at. And that stinks, because this has an interesting concept. There's an interesting mystery centered at the core of it. But to get there, you have to get through a lot of not really scary and really distracting, thrilling moments that don't really land the way that I feel like they are supposed to, because of some of the choices in terms of how the direction is going. And it's a shame, because by the end, like, this movie lifted up a little bit for me, and it has a bit of emotion towards the end as well. And at the core of it, I wish that this film was a little bit more consistent and tonally kept that throughout. I understand the point of like trying to keep as much of this as a mystery, but I feel like the best of it's in the last 20 minutes, and you have to get through over an hour of movie to get there, and that's a hard sell. And in the end, you don't really have a ton of great performances to really carry us, or like interesting character arcs. It's just beautiful people getting chased in obnoxious and creepy and over-the-top absurd kinds of situations, and, in this creepy hospital. But how did we get here? You gotta wait an hour in, but you'll find out in some really clunky and just exposition there for you. So in the end, this is a messy journey that you'll have to find out if you're willing to sit through so much of it to get to the part where it kind of feels like it gives you a bit more of a satisfying payoff. But those are my thoughts on Disquiet. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.